Hey y'all, thank you for watching. Once again, I really appreciate it. On today's quick tip episode, as I'm sure you saw flash across the screen, I'm going to talk about planning. As I am sure you've heard many times, planning is everything. Now, I get it, and I agree that spontaneity can be a wonderful thing in life, but not so much with this hobby. Being too spontaneous with this hobby could simply lead to a lot of really expensive kindling, which you want to avoid. So this episode is going to be about how I approach project planning and why I think it's important. Now, I guess I should start by stating the obvious. In woodworking, at the top is always safety, right? I mean, we want to keep these, we want to be able to keep our eyesight. We don't want our brains overly exposed to solvents and things like that. Our hearing is important. But in my view, right below that, especially with more involved projects, project planning and preparation, pretty close to the top there. Again, also for safety reasons. And that's what this is kind of, again, this episode is geared towards, or geared more towards. For those of you who are, earlier on in this journey of enjoying woodworking as a hobby, or if you're just thinking about taking on a project that might be a little bit more involved than anything you've done to date, might I suggest that as you approach that project, don't rush through or gloss over the project planning process. It will save you time, money, and it will help safety, which is, very important. And here's the thing, and I'm talking from my personal experience, so you go to your lumber yard and you spend a considerable amount of time picking out those perfect boards. You find that piece of cherry that is going to make a beautiful top, or aprons, or whatever the case might be, or picking out lumber. And then, I spend an hour doing that. And then you give it to the team there to take in the back where the equipment is, and they'll do some preliminary cuts. For longer boards, I'll have them put straight lines on it because my joiner is not that long. And every time they bring that cart back, when I look at it, it looks different than what I gave to them. So that's where it starts. And then I load up my truck, and I'm sure you guys and girls, women and men, will know this look. And then I bring it home. I'll put it on sawhorses in my garage, or bring it down to the basement, and it looks like this. And you can imagine it won't take long for you to forget what you had in mind for that certain piece of that furniture, what board goes where. And I know for a fact, before you know it, this has happened to me, a board that I had planned for that perfect top or whatever, a part of the top, I end up cutting it, and now it's part of the apron or something like that, which, isn't the end of the world. But if those types of errors happen early enough in the process, it can really slow things down, or it could end up, requiring you to go back to the lumber store to get more wood. Because, I don't know, for me, as I'm sure most people, this wood you just can't pick up at the big box store. And, I live out in the country, for me. So for me to go to the lumber yard and get more wood because I screwed up, that's an hour plus one way, which is cost and all that. So you want to avoid that. And that's why, whether I design the piece myself or I buy a design, which I do a lot, I spend a fair amount of time going through the dimensions and the design from front to back, thinking through the build process, because as I'm sure anyone who's involved in this hobby to any degree at this point knows, you have to always be thinking 2, 3, 4 steps ahead in your woodworking process. Thinking, when you're on this piece, what are the next 2, 3, 4 things I'm going to do with this board or this piece of wood or this part of the project? In what order am I going to do those 2, 3, 4 things? And what tools am I going to use to get those 2, 3, 4 things done? Do I need to make a jig? How long is this piece of board I'm working on going to have 2 straight edges? How long is it going to have at least 1 straight edge? Will there be things I need to do with this board when there are no more straight edges, which usually means a jig or some kind of special clamp? So, and having a plan and knowing your plan is going to help out with that. And as you can imagine, it's going to help you operate and work more safely. And then finally, long before I make any sawdust, when I get the wood into my shop or the garage or whatever, and it's, laid out, I'll get, matter of fact, I bought a box of chalk really early on when I started woodworking. There's still some in here. I'll get out some chalk and I will chalk up every board. I want to mark out what piece I intend to be a leg or an apron or whatever part of the project. And I'll take into account waste. I'll put circles around knots. I'll check again for the ends of the boards to make sure that they're either confirm or find that there are splits on there, because you might have thought you had this much of a board, but now you have to cut off the ends that were split, that you can't use it because of the width, and now it's this long. Those kind of things, which you try to find or catch at the lumber yard, but sometimes you just don't catch it. So, and then, without getting too deep into this, some species of lumber, I've found pockets. So, the quarter sawn white oak, I found happens to me. I found this in quarter sawn white oak a lot, where if I see a beautiful board that I'm working on, I'll just, certain areas, because I've been working with boards like that in the past, and I put the finish on, and next thing you know, I'm seeing bubbles. I'm like, why is the finish bubbling on this piece of wood? Because there was a pocket in there that I didn't catch until I was finished. But anyway, you want to go through these sorts of things, again, just to save you time and money. And I found chalking up the lumber before I make any cuts, any sawdust, is a good idea to make sure, again, it's part of your plan that'll help you save time and money, minimize your trips back to the lumber store, and help you operate more safely. Anyway, something to think about, my thoughts. And once you've done all that, as always, have fun. Again, thank you for watching. I hope you found this useful. If so, please subscribe to my channel so you can receive notifications of future content, and bye for now.